Buyers, not all buyers are qualified.
Not live, right?
Not live, but recording.
Recording. Oh, watch out. Cheers a bit.
Kyle, the honors go to you tonight.
I know. It seems like the honors are going to me a lot lately.
Dude, when you bring the guests, the honors are yours.
So you need to start bringing some guests.
I've brought some guests in my day.
So we
I'm on
are.
the job.
Yeah,
Right.
yeah, that's right. We are rolling. Welcome everybody to the Not a Grande Outdoors podcast. We have a great guest with us this evening. Got some feedback from some of our listeners. Wanted to hear something about turkey hunting, and we're a little late to the game, but
Right.
Actually,
it's almost halfway over.
it's almost halfway over. But I actually like that because everybody kind of has a chance to get out there and make some mistakes, and now we can kind of throw out there, hey, if you're not having any luck, try doing this.
Yeah, you're stretching, man.
Whatever, we'll stretch it. Joining us is Sergeant Josh Waldrip with New Mexico Department of Game and Fish, Sergeant out of Carlsbad, pretty avid turkey hunter. And we're going to have a nice discussion today about turkey hunting. I know I am not real versed in turkey hunting. I've only gotten into it recently, so this will be good for me.
It will.
You've done a little bit more than I have.
Yeah, but not much.
Yeah.
Can we start with a little off topic today?
If we want to start off topic.
Okay. Okay. I know we're here to talk about turkey
Yeah.
and everything.
Yeah.
But as we are recording this today, the
They,
draw results came out.
yep. And
They
Jo-
did.
you can see the excitement on Josh's face because I'm sure he gets all the calls and all the stuff on social media that we see.
Why didn't I
How come I can't draw a tag?
Right?
Leave a few calls today.
I bet. You didn't get any from me because I am super stoked. I finally, after years and years and years
Are
and
you gonna
years,
do this, or are we gonna do a red or green?
well, we need to do a red or green.
I know.
So you not want me to do this right now?
It's up to you. He
We
finally
can
drew.
still, we can still do a red or
That's
green.
true.
We're still going to do the red
That's
or green.
true.
I finally drew an Oryx tag.
Yeah.
I'm freaking excited.
Ah.
So
Good.
I've been trying to draw an Oryx tag for years, and I've said it on this podcast multiple times. That's the one tag that I've never been able to draw, and I finally drew it. And I drew a good one. I drew the off-range February hunt, which is, not hunting in July when it's hotter than the pits of Hades. So I'm pretty excited.
Yes, definitely. Is that as far as we're going off topic?
That's really
We're
as
gonna-
far.
we're
I
gonna
just
come
I
back
just had
off
to-
the rabbit trail.
I had to tell everybody, yay me, I got an Oryx tag.
Well, congratulations on that.
Thank you.
Everybody's
I'm
gonna be
excited.
sending us hate mail now.
But
We've always said this.
every year
We've always said this.
we draw well.
Yeah, for the most part, if you're not drawing, you need to look at what you're putting in for.
Yeah.
Because what's this? How many years have we drawn out?
We draw elk a lot.
Yeah,
This is we also
4 out of
take-
5
yeah,
years?
We also drew an elk tag, and I believe that it makes it 4 out of 5 years that we've drawn an elk tag.
so
Wow.
And we didn't draw a deer tag this year.
didn't draw too.
And that's only the second time in my life that I did not draw a deer tag. And we'll get into this deeper in the next podcast that we do about
Red or
the
green.
red or green.
Yep.
But I'm not disappointed that we didn't draw a deer tag. I
No.
mean, I am, because it's a bummer that we didn't draw. But the 3 hunts that I put us in for this year,
Tough
I
hunts to
did.
draw.
They were tough hunts to draw.
Mhm.
They were very low success rates of drawing on.
Yeah,
And I did not expect to 100% draw a tag this year. I thought if this was the year we weren't going to draw, or if we weren't going to draw a deer tag, this was the year we weren't, because we didn't back it up with a high odds hunt or anything like that. We went all out due to restrictions in our availability to hunt
yeah,
and dates that we had to hunt. So we didn't draw a deer tag,
Yep.
and I'm not disappointed because I knew it was a long shot. It's a bummer, but it is what
It's
it is. We put in for hard hunts to draw and
yeah.
didn't get it.
I'll let Josh, I'll let you decide whether or not you wanna throw in on this, on whether or not you drew. Cause I remember whenever I was with Department of Game and Fish, anytime I said I drew, you get flack about, oh, must be nice to work for the department, and they draw your name. And every time you got to explain to them, yeah, that's not how it works.
Exactly. We
did you
don't
get
get any privilege, or
No
we don't have
special-
any special privilege.
Yeah. So did you get lucky this year?
I can't complain. I did draw deer tag, which I didn't get skunked. I know a lot of people that got skunked, and it is what it is. But I'm going to take what I can get and be glad that I got it.
Right?
Absolutely. Absolutely. Josh, give us a little bit of background. Where are you from? How'd you come to be an officer, and a little bit of background on how long you've been turkey hunting and stuff.
Born and raised in Artesia, New Mexico.
Nice.
Learned early on, knowing my local game warden, growing up, and gotten to be around him, hang out with him, and actually go on a ride along, doing some deer trapping and things early on. Kind of got my feet wet and helped me determine and decide what I wanted to do with myself, and what career path I wanted to choose. I went to school in New Mexico State, graduated in 2002, was employed with the Game and Fish Department in 2003. After all my training, I was assigned to the Tucumcari district. I stayed in Tucumcari, in that Tucumcari district, for approximately 4.5 years. Loved it over there. Beautiful country, awesome hunting opportunities. Just not a whole lot of public land, but just a phenomenal part of the world that I think is some of the best kept secrets in the state as far as hunting is concerned. Just a neat area. The only reason I left was to get back closer to home. I'm currently living in Artesia, as the Carlsbad Supervisory District Sergeant. So it's been good to be back home. That's kind of what it is in a nutshell. From Tucumcari, I did transfer to the Roswell District, became the Roswell District Officer, get me a little closer to home. And then finally a position came available to get me back home, which has been nice.
Very nice. I've got some good family there in Artesia. And
You might know them. You never know.
probably does. Probably does. We can probably talk after the podcast
Yeah.
about that.
Yeah,
Yeah,
absolutely.
I've got a lot of good family in Artesia.
That's become one of our favorite places to hunt.
I love hunting in Artesia.
Yes, I recall running into you. It was last year. Last
Year on the deer hunt.
Absolutely.
Which was a good hunt for us.
Yep.
And I have some family that has a ranch out in Tucumcari, so I know that area a little
Oh,
well
wow.
too. So
Good.
Give us a little background on your turkey hunting and how long you've been doing it, and then we'll kind of get into, really want to just get into some basics. Again, we're kind of wet behind the ears when it comes to turkey hunting. I was never terribly interested in it until kind of figured out it's very similar to elk hunting as far as calling them and getting them to respond. And so it can be extremely exciting.
Absolutely. I was fortunate to have my dad introduce me to turkey hunting at an early age. I remember following him around in the turkey woods, him and my older brother, and getting to see, before I was even able to hunt, and get to see and witness, the pros and cons, I guess, of turkey hunting. And when it's good, it's good. And when it's bad, it's not so good. But at an early age, I got to see men and experience that, and was provided that opportunity. And I've been doing, turkey hunting. I hadn't missed a year since. I've been turkey hunting for close to 30 years now. And I'm by no means an expert. I will never claim that, but I do have a lot of years under my belt and a lot of mistakes, and I've learned from my mistakes, and I've learned a lot from other hunters, fellow hunters. And, there's a lot of luck involved with turkey hunting success. I've learned that over the years. I've had to work on my patience, which I don't have a whole lot of sometimes. And there's lots of different techniques. We can probably get into that here in a little bit, but I've been turkey hunting for close to 30 years, and I enjoy it. And I've introduced my kids to it, and I think they're going to love it too. And it is what it is. I've enjoyed it, and I look forward to it every year.
What is, like Kyle said, one of the coolest things about turkey hunting is that it does parallel elk hunting as far as the calling them in and stuff like that. The type of hunting that it is, it very, very much mirrors elk hunting. But in your opinion, what's your favorite thing about turkey hunting?
I agree with you 100%. It mirrors elk hunting almost to a T. I think the two most exciting animals that I enjoy, my two favorite animals to hunt, are the elk and the turkey, and basically because the interaction you have with them.
Yeah.
You're matching wits with those animals. You're calling to them. They respond to you, and when they respond to you, it's just amazing to have that interaction with them and be able to call a turkey or an elk into your lap or into close range. It does it for me, if you will. I mean, it's those things that I look so forward to every year.
Yeah.
So take us through, I think we just want to kind of start at the bottom and really kind of get an understanding of a little bit of the biology of turkeys, kind of their life cycle, and then, kind of ease us into the habitat types that you're going to find them in. I think that's one of the cool things about turkey is you do find them across a wide variety of habitats. And here in New Mexico, we have 3 different species of turkey that you can hunt, which makes New Mexico extremely unique.
Absolutely. The most common is probably the Merriam's in the state, but we do also have the Rio Grande and the Gould's turkey down in the Boot Hill. It's makes for some phenomenal opportunities throughout the state. And I think statewide, where the vast majority of our turkeys occur or live, I think our populations are doing great. I mean, we've had an over-the-counter turkey hunt for as long as I can remember, and we continue to maintain the numbers to be able to offer those licenses over the counter, which is just a phenomenal opportunity for anybody to go buy a license and go turkey hunt.
Well, not only that, but they're actually flourishing so much so that, Game and Fish specifically, along with some partners, are taking from areas that have an overabundance of turkeys and introducing them back into historic ranges where they may have not been for a long time. I remember doing several turkey traps in my time with the department where we were, bolstering numbers or sending them somewhere else that the habitat had opened back up. And so that really is a testament to how well, those birds have been managed in the state.
Absolutely. The department has taken an initiative, particularly the last 5 to 10 years on trying to expand those numbers. I know you were involved with a little bit of those turkey depredations and issues that we had in the Tucumcari area, and helped out with those trapping and relocation of those birds. And it's nice to have that opportunity to expand, certain populations or augment certain populations that are existing in certain areas that may be struggling at the time. But I know a lot of those turkeys in that Tucumcari area that we trapped 8 and 10 years ago we relocated to other areas of the state. And I know particularly down in this part of the world, the Washington Ranch area, and where those birds were released back when, are still doing well.
And so take us through the life cycle of a turkey. I know enough to be possibly, I guess, make myself look like an idiot, but take us through kind of what the life cycle of a turkey is and some of their real critical habitat needs.
I think that a lot of, like other birds, when we've got rainfall, we've got the right vegetation and the right, the adequate cover, it all affects them in one way or another. and being a bird, just like a quail or a pheasant, or if we don't have the moisture and we don't have the cover and we don't have the forage for them, they're just not going to do well. And I think the turkeys kind of mirror that. In my experience, I know they can do well in during droughts, but I don't think they're going to have the recruitment they would on a good wet year. In my experience, hunting the Merriams, primarily turkeys, I've seen them in some just dry, rugged country where there wasn't a blade of grass for miles, but somehow or another they're still surviving. So I think they're pretty hardy birds, for say. But just like any other critter, man, they're gonna thrive when it's good.
And that's one thing that kind of really sticks out to me is I guess kind of like antelope. Those real typically a wet spring is really good for poult recruitment because they have that cover, they have the water, and you talked about the birds down there at Washington Ranch down there on the Black River. One of the reasons they're there is because there's water there, so it provides one of those, especially here in New Mexico, one of those key components of habitat for all animals, really, but especially for those turkeys.
Absolutely, water is critical. I know they don't depend on it as long as they're getting some moisture from foraging. They're not highly dependent on water, but when water is available, and they're going to use it.
I'm rolling along here.
If you're a newbie, a new hunter out there turkey hunting for your first time, what are you looking for? What type of terrain, what type of country, if water is not a huge factor, which we all know water is always important. But if water is not a huge factor, what kind of terrain and country forage are you looking for to find good areas for turkey?
I guess it depends on, are you gonna have to, I guess, determine where you want to hunt first, what areas you want to focus on, whether it want to be the mountainous areas or units with, which typically in the southern part of the state, we've got a lot of turkeys in the mountain areas. If that's the case, that's kind of where I focus my efforts on. And I I do look for water. I know if there's water, there's going to be turkeys nearby. Within a mile of that water, in my experience, you're going to find turkeys. I look for water. I like to get off the roads. I like to get away from people. I like to get away from traffic because it always has an effect on your hunt and how the birds behave or may react to your hunting entire process or hunting style, particularly mine. So as from a newbie's perspective, I would say figure out where you want to hunt, do your homework, maybe talk to your local officer. Their wisdom and knowledge of the area is tremendous, and I think that's another an amazing avenue that you can take to pick their brains and get some ideas on where the turkeys are congregated or the primary turkey habitat in those areas. The thing with the Merriam's turkeys, they occupy a vast variety of habitats, and that's what makes it nice, particularly in some of these southern units. There's turkeys all over the place, and they're thriving and doing well. So it's not hard to find turkeys, in my opinion. But it can be difficult to put one on the ground at times.
Yeah, I can understand that. That's for sure. I got my first bird last year, but I will say it was not one of those picture perfect setups, where they come strutting in. It was I'll be very, very frank. It was a group of jakes that probably didn't know no better and just allowed me, really, that's what happened. They didn't come to me. They allowed me to get too close, and I I got one. That was what happened. It was nothing pretty.
Hey, a lot of turkeys are killed spot and stalk. A lot of birds are shot, from the roads. They travel so much. So if a lot of hunters will just travel the roads and if I get an opportunity at a bird crossing a road or from the side of the road, and you know what, that's not uncommon.
Yeah.
A lot of killed annually, legally from the edge of the county or the main or the forest roads or whatnot, the two tracks. And I've seen that lots of times throughout my hunting career, that of turkeys being killed legally from the roads.
Yeah.
I would imagine that that's very common during the fall.
Yes.
But I mean, if you're going to go spring turkey hunting, why not Cluckup Bend?
Yeah. True enough. True enough. So you talked about your favorite spot or favorite area to hunt is in the mountains. Give us some habitat. I fully realize that the Merriams occupy a pretty good range of habitat, but give us some indicators, like what are you looking for? You said water. That's finding them within a mile of water, but what are these birds, particularly in the spring, because that's what the hunting's going on right now, but what are these birds looking for food? What are they, where can you expect them to be moving to and from that type of information?
It can be very difficult to pattern these birds, where you may see them at one place one day and they not be there the next. In my experience, just trying to locate birds can be difficult. I used some techniques, particularly early in the morning, late in the evening. If I don't know, if I'm going into an area blind, I like to be there late in the evening, just after sundown or early in the morning before sun up. And you can do a lot with an owl hoot or an owl call, a hoot call. That's how I do most of my locating. And birds are during the springtime are typically pretty darn vocal first thing in the morning. When you start the other birds chirping just before sunup, 9 times out of 10 you can get a turkey to gobble while in the roost, while still in that tree. And that's one of the main techniques I use to locate birds if I don't know where birds are, prior to. Things to look for: turkeys in my experience, tend to roost upon tops of ridges. You want to find a place that's got a lot of roost trees or roost opportunities. They do prefer, in my part of the world, they prefer the taller, bigger, ponderosa pines or something they can get up high, to get away from that possible predator. I've seen them 100 feet up in the air and is as high as they can get in some of those ponderosa pines before. So you want to find a place that's got an inadequate amount of roost trees. They don't like to roost in the smaller juniper, pinon juniper, but they will if they have to. I've seen them roost. I've seen the real grand birds roosted in salt cedars, and anything they can use to roost, they'll use it, but they prefer the taller, bigger trees for safety, I guess, and comfort.
When you're talking about roosting, you go in the morning and you hear them on the roost. Do you like to get as close as you can to a roost, or do you kind of hold off and see which way they're going to go when they come out of that roost?
Historically, you see these turkey hunts on TV and whatnot, and it seems like it's an easy thing watching those guys video, but in all reality, it probably took them 2 weeks to make a 30-minute video.
Yeah, with who knows how much footage that they had to cut through.
B-roll.
Exactly. It's not reality. I mean, yeah, you can probably go out there open in the morning and get lucky and kill a bird, but you're gonna for the most part, you're gonna work for it and you're gonna earn that turkey. But Me in particular, I've gotten lucky and I've gone in and gotten right underneath roost before when it's still dark, and I was able to do it quietly and not disturb the birds, and was able to kill a bird. Got lucky and they flew down within shotgun range, but you just never know. I have learned from a lot of my mess ups that if it's dark enough and you can get in close, I normally try to. I try to get in within 100 yards of their roost tree. Typically that's birds that I have roosted the evening before. And so I knew their general vicinity and was able to, with a little headlamp, or I usually use a red or a green light on my headlamp and try to get in within 100 yards of a bird and try to get into an open area, get decoys set up and just be patient, sit and wait and call occasionally. I have learned over the years that early on I called probably too much, too frequently and too loud, and probably disturbed and spooked more birds than I realized. But you can get too close. They are pretty weary in the mornings. They don't see well in the dark, so if you're quiet, you can get right up on them. But it's difficult to do. But I like to get within 100 yards, get in an open area where I think they may pitch down out of that tree. A lot of times, it seems like more times than not, they do the opposite of what you expect them to do. It's just got a sixth sense, and so it's difficult. I've had success doing all of the above, so they're pretty well unpredictable. But if I had my choice in the matter, I would get within 100 yards of the roost, maybe even within 50 yards. Have your decoys out and totally set up and ready prior to them being able to see. As soon as you're able to start seeing, I've had birds pitch out of trees and light on the ground next to me when I could barely see. So they're very unpredictable. But that's what makes them fun to hunt. They can be extremely frustrating. But that's kind of my technique that I use. I like to locate birds. I like to know where they're at for the next morning, get in fairly close, get set up and wait on them, and don't call too much. Yeah. A lot of times, in most cases, these toms this time of year, or even first started the hunt, or already have hens with them. So you'll hear a lot of times hens talking in the trees, yelping in the trees, and a lot of times I try to mimic that. Some guys will mimic a turkey flying down with a wing. I've used that in the past. It may or may not work. I don't know. It's just something else that may convince that tom to come check you out. There's lots of techniques and things you could spend lots of money on equipment for turkey hunting when there's been a lot of turkeys that just been shot just over an old box call,
Yeah.
So the sky's the limit on equipment and fancy gear and fancy shotguns, but just being out in the woods and learning it on your own and experiencing it and being around the birds and listening to the birds and observing the birds, you're going to learn so much just by being out and doing it versus watching it some TV show on TV.
I know that's probably one of the most that's probably one of the things I hear the most, whether it's with elk hunting or with turkey hunting, is too much calling. You're doing too much calling, and it kind of makes me laugh because the other day I saw a meme. It was really a cartoon, was what it was, but this tom up in a tree, up in a roost, and this turkey hunter down in the bushes, and the turkey hunter was calling, and the expression off of the turkey call from the hunter's point of view was these hearts telling the tom to come in. And then when it showed the tom was hearing this nag, 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 nag. And that's kind of what it makes me laugh every time, because that's really what it really kind of brought that visualization into my mind about calling too much. And I don't know how much is too much. Maybe you can take us through, kind of some intervals and some common things that you have seen over the years. Again, it's hard to pattern birds, like you said, but everybody kind of gets these techniques that have worked for them and tend to go back to.
Absolutely. And it all depends on the bird. I have had some birds that will gobble at any noise you make and are hot and excited and you almost can't do anything wrong. But those are few and far between, but they're very unpredictable. Um, there's the birds that my daughter killed a bird last weekend that never said a word. We never knew he was anywhere in the area until he walked out of the trees into the meadow we were in and came into the decoys. I mean, it's amazing how unpredictable they can be. And the very next day, they may be gobbling their heads off. I think it depends a lot on the weather too. Last weekend we had a cold front come in. There's no doubt in my mind that had an impact on why the birds weren't vocal at all. You could hardly get one to even gobble on the roost. So, but yeah, I think in my experience, early on, I think I probably called too loud. Their hearing is phenomenal. Their hearing and eyesight's just phenomenal. And I've learned over the years to tone down my calling. I've had more success just by softly calling on a call than I have being loud. Particularly if a bird is within several hundred yards of you. I think the quieter and softer on the calls you can be, the better. Another thing I've kind of learned over the years is you want that bird to come looking for you. If you're calling too much, I think, in my opinion, that bird in the grand scheme of things, how this is all supposed to work out for these birds is it's common knowledge, I think, when turkey hunting, that the gobblers gobble to attract hens. So the hens are supposed to respond to the toms gobbling and come to them. And that's kind of where we've kind of reversed that role by trying to talk the toms to us.
That's really interesting, because you would think that we would have tried to figure out how to work with that, but in reality, you're working against the natural flow of things, so it automatically makes it harder.
Absolutely. You'll see, I've seen birds, they normally have a roost area or a strutting area. I've seen birds, day after day after day will go off the roost. They'll attempt to breed the hens that they're with, and the hens will leave, and then these toms will go to their strutting zones, and they'll typically a meadow or a place that's fairly open, and that's where they strut. They just strut around, and they'll occasionally gobble, and they're expecting those hens to come to them at that point in time. So yeah, we're fighting that natural urge for that tom to sit and wait on you. And I think when you possibly call too much, he may just sit and wait on you, and it may never materialize. But I think calling less frequently and softer, that is, in my experience, has worked out for me. It makes that turkey, I'm assuming, probably getting impatient, and if you don't call too much, he's kind of forced to come looking for you. And if you're calling too loud, he may think you're closer than you actually are, and may not come as close as you need him to come. So I like to call very, very softly, particularly if I know a bird's within 200 yards of me. The noise is just barely resonating off that slate or box, or I normally use a slate call at that point in time, just because I can tone it down so much and just barely be making any noise at all.
So that brings up a question, like how, I realize you've got 30 years of this, but how can you tell how far they are from you? Just the volume of their gobble, or?
Yeah, it's the volume, and it's just being in the woods and experience it. And a lot of times it depends on what direction the bird is facing. Just like an elk, if an elk's facing you and bugling at you, it's much louder than it would be him facing away from you. But he's not any farther from you; he's just facing a different direction. So there's a lot of things that can contribute to knowing how far that bird is. But you're going to know the volume is just amazing, and the resonance is just amazing when those birds are within 50 yards of you gobbling. It's night and day when they're that close versus a bird at 100 yards or more. And it depends on the terrain. If you're down in a canyon, that tom's going to sound loud. much louder than he may be, would sound up on top of a ridge where that noise can carry. So it varies, and it just takes experience being in the woods and witnessing it firsthand. It's hard to say. That's the truth of it. And when they're vocal, they're easier to hunt. They're easier to kill, just like elk. If elk aren't talking, man, they can be very difficult to kill. And same with turkeys. And I think that's what makes it so fun and gets us out there is that interaction and hearing them gobble. It's just amazing.
What kind of calls are you typically using? I know I've listened to you talk about the box calls, slate calls, but what kind of calls do you typically carry with you out in the field?
I try to carry an assortment. I have a box call, I've got a slate, and I've got diaphragms for any particular instance that may arise. When I'm locating, if I didn't have any luck in the morning, I normally try to hunt until 10, 11 o'clock, because a lot of times those hens may leave that tom, and he's at that point, he's either looking for other hens or he's going to his area to strut. So I'm looking at that point. If I haven't had any success right off the bat in the morning, I stick with it. I do some location calls. I carry a crow call. Crow call is an awesome tool to get a bird to gobble midday, all day long, really. It's called a shock gobble, and it's just a noise. It's just a racket, a loud noise that I don't know if it irritates them, makes them mad or what, but it shocks the gobble out of them a lot of times. If you're real loud and obnoxious on that call, it'll a lot of times get them to gobble, which will then tell you where they're at, and then you can make a play on them at that point in time. But I don't know how many times I've messed that up too by hearing a turkey gobble within a few hundred yards of me, and heading out trying to get closer to him and end up busting him seeing me. A lot of times it's just good to sit tight and wait that bird out. That's another thing good about a locator call, such as a crow call, is they're going to respond to it, and they're not going to come to you as if you would have had a box call or something calling to them. I've done that in the past too, is using a box call to locate a bird, and a turkey gobbles at you 100 yards from you, and before you can get your decoy out and get ready, he's already coming and he busts you. So there's some pros and cons to using a box or a turkey call to locate versus a crow call to locate, because it may give you that opportunity to maybe get closer if he's too far, or get your stuff set up, find a tree, find some places to hide, and before you start actually calling with a turkey call.
Nice. That's a good tip.
A really good tip. Yeah.
So let's talk about gobbling real quick. One of the things about turkey hunting that I'm not sure a lot of people know is how dangerous it can be. A lot of people out there running the woods, like you said, it's over the counter tag, so there's not really a limit on the number of people. And you can end up with a lot of people stalking the same gobble and shooting shotguns in different directions. It's just a very dangerous, it's a dangerous hunt to go on.
I actually looked this up the other day, and fall turkey hunting has the most accidents or the most hunter-on-hunter accidents and fatalities in all of hunting is fall turkey.
Nice. Spring turkey's probably number 2 then.
That's probably up there, but yeah.
Yeah.
Deer hunting, I think, was second. Whitetail. Yeah, back east.
Whitetail. Probably deer drives.
Deer drives. That's probably a good. Yeah, but yeah, you're exactly right.
So what can you do for safety concerns when you're out there and you're like you said, you hear a gobble and you try and get a little bit closer, and you're doing all that calling? Quite literally, there's probably plenty of times where you've got a bunch of other people stalking that same call.
Absolutely, and it's happened to me in the past. I've had or times where I've got a turkey gobbling in a tree early in the morning, and I'm making my way to him, and I run into another hunter. It happens, and that's public land hunting for you. But as far as gobbling, they do make gobble calls. I do have a gobble call, but I'm very careful on when and where I use it. I haven't had a whole lot of success using the gobble call. On occasion, I've been able to locate turkeys because they'll respond by gobbling to a gobble call sometimes. So for the 90% of the time, it stays in my pocket and doesn't come out, but I have it just in case I may want to try it. If nothing else, you throw everything but the kitchen sink at them, it's not working. I might try that, but I very rarely do. Basically because of the safety concerns. I do know accidents happen quite often. I know an individual that I grew up with that they actually got shot at, and his dad was peppered and growing up turkey hunting, and so it can be very dangerous. They advise that you don't wear any type of clothing that may mimic that of a turkey. Turkey's head, the colors, the reds, the blues, the whites, blacks. I mean, any of those colors can be dangerous at times. I know with this particular instance, it was that they were sitting beside a road, and it was foggy, from what I understand, real foggy, and some hunters were driving down the road, and their camouflage clothing within that fog, I guess, appeared to be dark in color, and these hunters jumped out of that truck and started shooting at them, and luckily nobody was hurt severely or killed, but it can happen. You just got to be careful. I don't like to use a gobble call. The decoy thing's gotten real popular now, where they're actually using a tom turkey decoy to stalk turkeys, and it's been very effective. But you got to be careful with that, particularly on public land too. It's amazing how effective it is. You've probably seen it on TV where they're stalking turkeys behind a strutting tom decoy and getting within shotgun range. It's amazing. But
Yeah,
on the flip side,
sorry. I talked to a guy just the other day that did that. They had this tom out in the middle of a meadow. Mind you, this is private land that they were on, so he could do that, but out in the middle of a meadow, and was able to take a tom turkey decoy, and basically they just crawled on their hands and knees, him in front holding that tom, and the hunter behind him, just in line with that tom, and they just belly crawled all the way out there to within range and got the bird.
Yeah, the turkey fans that people are using nowadays. I have a spreading tom decoy, and I hate setting it up for that exact reason. Every time I set it up, I'm thinking, okay, I'm going to set this up, but I'm going to set it up in a direct, because it's a 2D. It's not a 3D target. It's just a 2D target. And every time I set it up, I make sure it's sideways to me, so if somebody shoots it, I'm not behind it.
That's smart.
It's just dangerous.
Yeah, that's a very good idea. I mean, even using hand decoys on public land can be dangerous. I mean, people shoot first and look later. I mean, they do it, so it can be dangerous.
Yeah, it's probably a good time in the podcast to remind everybody, make sure that you're following your 4 cardinal safety rules. If you do that, we shouldn't have any problems.
Yeah.
Identify what that target is before you shoot.
Yeah. And that's, even like I had a little Jake decoy, snipped the beard off of it, and now it's a perfectly beautiful little Hindi.
And decoys work wonderful. I mean, I have one with me all the time. Any chance I can get one out, I do. I've had, I think, turkeys come to an area and not be able to see any hen where I'm calling from, and they just will not close the rest of that distance. And much like an elk, if an elk doesn't see a cow where that noise is coming from, a lot of times they're not gonna close that distance. So it is a very good tool to use.
I know. So it's always a fun topic about, you're talking about the gear and how how into it you can really get. I mean, there's gear and gadgets and camo and everything. And I always kind of lean a little towards, I tend to like earth tones and don't necessarily go all out and have camo from head to toe, but turkeys are a little bit different. Their eyesight's extremely good. And so what are your, like, what's your kind of process? Do you go camo head to toe? Do you not worry too much about the shine off your face? What's your standard protocol?
I don't know that it's always necessary, but I do wear camo head to toe. I normally try to cover my face best I can. I wear gloves. Your hands really stand out, in my opinion, when you do any movement if you don't have them covered. Even as much as taking, the safety off of your gun without anything on your hands, it's their eyesight is just phenomenal, and I'm not willing to take that risk because I've been busted, and I've learned from my experiences and know that if it's you're just better off to cover it. It doesn't have to be a camouflage pattern. It could just be an earth tone, but just covering it up, I think, is critical. Being still, movement is they can pick up any little movement. It's amazing how much what they pick up on, and once they do pick up on any type of movement, it pretty much the gig's up, and
Yeah.
they put them on alert, and you don't have a whole lot of time to try to fix that if that's the case. So I think covering up best you can, earth tones at a minimum, movement, keep your movement to an extreme minimum. I'll only move when you have a barrier in between you and the bird, say a tree. If the same was, I bow elk hunt, so you use the terrain and you use the vegetation to your advantage. So when their head's behind a tree or behind a bush, that's when you take your opportunity to move. And or a strutting tom is very easy to kill if he's keyed in on a decoy, because you give him enough time, he's going to turn his rear to you, which is going to totally block his view because of his tail fan. That's going to give you ample opportunity to move and do what you need to do to get ready to make the shot once he presents that.
And so let's talk about that shot a little bit. I have often heard, people missing one, and I think from what I have read and kind of looked up about turkey hunting, probably the most common thing for you, if you're within range and you got the correct implement, shotgun, and it's pattern and it's on, for the most part, the most missed shot is because you shot over the top of them. Is that right?
Absolutely.
And
And yes, you're right. And it happens all too often. And the reason being is you get excited. You don't have your cheek down on the gun looking down that ramp, and your bead's high and you don't realize it. Force your shot over the turkey's head. And I've seen it. I've witnessed it. What I do and what I've done for my kids and what I highly recommend, a lot of these new shotguns come with two beads, a front and a rear bead, to line up. But a lot of times those beads aren't, maybe your front bead's illuminated, but the rear's not. So you don't, in low light situations, you're not going to know if your barrel's level. The problem is your barrel's not level, and you don't know that because you don't have two reference points, front sight and the rear sight, if you will. So what I do personally, and what I've done for my kids, is I put a high vis rear bead, halfway down the barrel, so that they have two points of alignment that they can line up, knowing that barrel's level, and then they put that single bead on that turkey's neck, and it's been very, very productive. But you're exactly right. There's a lot of turkeys missed every year, and 90% of the time they're shooting high because they're not getting down on the gun and that barrel's not level, and they're shooting high. You're absolutely right.
Yeah. I put a little bitty dot of fingernail polish on the back end of my rail. So when I get that to the bottom of the front bead, I know I'm good.
Absolutely. Yeah, anything that'll work as a second reference point is critical, in my opinion.
That makes a ton of sense. And I mean, um, up until recent, I mean, I just purchased a shotgun for myself, but up until recently, I didn't do a lot of shotgun shooting. I didn't bird hunt, do things like that, and so I never really had any experience with that. When I was with the department, the shotguns that we used there had rifle sights on it, and so it was just like using a rifle. And so that absolutely makes a ton of sense, and that's definitely what I'm going to do for this new shotgun I've got. I'm going to put some sort of second reference because I could see myself doing that because I'm not used to getting that shotgun down level.
Yeah.
I don't have that experience.
Yeah.
Exactly. And having these new high vis, sights that stand out even in low light, and man, your eyes are drawn to them, and it's a very good tool to use for doing that. And with today's technologies and most turkey guns are, if you probably have a full choke or an extended, or an extra full choke, or so those guns are shooting very tight patterns. So it doesn't take much to, even out to 20, 30, 40 yards, that it doesn't take much elevation in that front end of that barrel to shoot high.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. I'm glad we had this podcast because we were getting ready to pattern shotguns.
Yep.
For a hunt later on in the month, so that'll be good information.
It's coming up pretty quick.
It is coming up really quick. So
Leave next Thursday, right?
yeah,
Or next Friday, something like that.
something like that.
Pretty quick.
So, what else? What have we
Yeah.
not covered?
I'm sure that we didn't cover a lot. There's so much to it. I haven't done a ton of turkey hunting, but I've done a little. It's super fun. To me, it's just every bit as exciting as elk. And I've had some really cool close encounters with elk, and the close encounters that I've had with turkey were just as exciting. Absolutely love it. It's so much fun. We don't do it near enough. It's
No.
something that we should do a lot of every year. And the cool thing about it is you do have, it's a longer season. It gives you an opportunity just to spend some good time in the woods, especially for all those people that didn't draw a tag.
Well, and that's something that I was going to say. That's actually one of the reasons why I'm pretty excited about getting into turkey hunting is because used to basically all I put in for was elk. So if you didn't draw, it was a long dadgum year. But now you start, since we started doing this podcast, you start realizing how much hunting there actually is on a year-round basis. And turkey is a perfect spot to get you kind of primed up, and then you have a couple months of summer to kind of get ready for everything else. But I like that it's a good way to come out of winter and get back in the woods.
It is. And another cool thing about turkey hunting that I really like is if there's an area that, like you were talking about, there's plenty of good habitat for turkey out there. But one thing that you can almost always guarantee is that if you're hunting elk there, there's probably turkey there too. And so if you've got a spot that you're trying to draw an elk tag, what a better way to go scouting
Learn
than
the
to go
country.
turkey hunting.
Absolutely.
Spend a few weeks out there chasing turkey while you're scouting for elk, learn the country. It's just a great opportunity. It's another chance to get in the woods, practice your woodsmanship, and learn the country. So
Absolutely. And elk and turkey hunting occurs during my favorite times of the year. Spring and fall are just wonderful times of the year to be in the mountains.
Yeah.
Are not. And
absolutely.
it's just amazing. You can kill two birds. You could kill three if you want to go shoot a bird in the fall. I'm not a big fall turkey hunter. I just normally focus my efforts on elk or something else if I'm lucky enough to draw. But I love springtime turkey hunting and hearing them gobble and being able to call them in and interact with them, match wits birds, and if you can get lucky and pull one and kill him, it's amazing.
Yeah. And to that point as well, we had another person on the podcast, Joey G, where he talks about sealing the deal. Now,
Yeah.
that's one of the hardest things and one of the most important things, to do, because you get lots of practice doing everything up to that, right?
Yes.
You practice stalking, practice calling,
Yep.
all of that. But
Practice
making
shooting.
that shot is the one thing that you get the least amount of practice doing,
Yeah.
right? So when you get out there in the turkey woods and you're calling in a turkey and you get that opportunity, that's what it is. It's just more practice sealing the deal,
Yeah.
closing it out and making that shot.
Yeah. I was gonna say there's a reason that the average harvest rate in the state is somewhere around 23% because people
Yeah.
don't know how to close that
Yeah.
deal.
Yeah. And turkey hunting, it gives you another opportunity to practice staying calm. It's a problem that I had for a
Tornado
long
mode.
time, is staying calm.
Yeah.
And the more opportunities you have to pull the trigger, be it with a bow, a shotgun, a muzzler, a rifle, it doesn't matter. The more opportunities you have to be in that moment, the better you will be at sealing the deal. And turkey's just another great opportunity to do that.
Absolutely. And we touched on it a little bit ago. I don't know. Like I said, a lot of these shotguns these days most firearms companies are actually building shotguns for turkey hunting, and they're nice if you got the money. But there's been a lot of turkeys killed with grandpa's, double barrel 12 gauge shotgun. It's just what you want to put into it and what you can afford to put into it, but you don't have to be extravagant or have the latest and greatest to go have a darn good time and kill a turkey.
The first,
And in today's ammunition, the technology is just phenomenal.
Yeah.
They're shooting these turkey rounds, these turkey loads out to 40, 50, 60 yards with, darn good accuracy. And I'm putting a lot of pellets on paper out at 50 and 60 yards.
Yeah.
I don't condone that or support that. It all depends on the situation, but the technology is just phenomenal.
Yeah.
What these turkey loads are doing these days.
the first shotgun I ever shot when I was a kid, like 11, 12 years old, was an old Savage side-by-side double barrel 12 gauge shotgun. And it had a cutoff stock on it.
Mm-hmm.
It didn't have a butt plate at all. So no cushion, no rifle butt plate or anything. It was just a cut off piece of wood. And
Nice.
I don't know how many times that thing knocked me over. It had like an 8-mile long barrel and it weighed like 72 pounds. It was murder dragging that thing around. We hunted quail with it. I hunted quail with it. And I finally got tired of it and I took a rifle butt plate off of a rifle and put it on there, but I couldn't get the screw on the top hole to go all the way in. So it stuck out about yay far. And man, by the time quail season was over, I would just be beat up. Oh man, it's amazing that I will even pick up a shotgun anymore after doing that as a kid. And my cousins, both of them a-holes, always telling me, pull both triggers.
Yes.
And then my dumbass doing it.
Well, yeah, it comes back to what Josh was saying, and that's what we advocate for. If you have the means, the technology and the shotguns and all that, the gear is nice and probably makes it a little more comfortable and a little easier to do it. But in all reality, beg, borrow, steal, just get your butt out in the woods.
Yeah, go hunt.
Absolutely. And talking about the 12 gauge and different options, my kids have shot quite a few turkeys with just a 20 gauge youth shotgun. So you don't have to have the biggest and best out there. I know there's guys that hunt turkeys every year with a 410.
Yeah.
And I think some of these modern, these ammunition manufacturers are even making turkey loads now in 410. So
Yep.
this is the limit, man. And you don't have to have a whole lot of funds or money to go enjoy it. Just figure out what you need and what you can find and afford and make it work.
It's a great way to get started.
Yeah.
Because it's time, like we said earlier, it's time in the woods. It's experiencing
Over the counter, you don't have to
over the
draw it.
counter, and if nothing else, you can get out there in the spring when everybody's got winter fever and tired of being cooped up. And right now, in the middle of COVID, get out in the woods, go turkey hunting, man.
Absolutely.
Hey, we're gonna wrap this up, but before we do, kind of wanted to give you an opportunity to let everybody out there know just some reminders on turkey hunting from the department standpoint. Kind of give us some heads up on what you got to have with you out in the woods and what to expect if you run into a game warden.
Absolutely. If you're hunting turkeys in the spring, of course, there's a 2-bird limit. It's got to have a visible beard. Oftentimes hens will have beards. So if you shoot a bearded hen, it's perfectly legal. But you got to show a proof of sex. So that beard's got to remain on that bird after the kill until it gets to your place of storage, such as your home or residence. But that beard's got to remain attached to that bird so that an officer can see that was indeed a bearded turkey, whether it be a bearded hen or a tom turkey. Your fall seasons, it's neither or, so you can kill any bird. It doesn't have to be bearded, which is nice. It's another opportunity. Whether you choose the E-tag option, which is new, a lot of people may not be familiar with that. It's nice not to have to carry a paper tag with you, but you got to make sure you do that correctly. You have to download an app to your phone. It's fairly convenient if the technologies work. You don't have to have cell phone service. You just have to have the application open on your phone prior to losing service. You'll be able to tag your animal through that app as long as you have that app opened up on your phone. If you do that, if you use that option, it'll prompt you to fill out some information that you then have to attach to the bird, which is normally on a leg. I use just flagging, and I use a Sharpie that I can write the information that your app prompts you to write on the flagging, and then I can wrap that around the leg of the turkey if the E-tag app is the option I take.
And that's got to be waterproof material, correct?
Yes, it needs it. Yes, it should be, just to play it safe. I'm old school. I like to have that old paper tag
You and me both.
it's nice to have that, where it's at, where it's going on that bird. It's not coming off unless somebody takes it off, and that you're claiming that bird is yours, and it's just a neat thing to do. But you can kind of get that satisfaction out of the E-tag thing too by being able to put something on that bird. But have your license with you. Know what you need to buy. You need a game hunting license as well as the turkey license. Your habitat stamps if you're hunting on public land. Just have all that with you. It's a good time. It's fairly cheap. Turkey license is $25. You can kill 2 turkeys. Nothing else is cheap anymore. The fuel, the food, that racks. We all know, but going down and buying a $25 resident turkey license is pretty darn cheap in today's time. And I think I would just highly suggest you guys or anybody take advantage of it. Take the kids out and just get outdoors.
Any restrictions on implements, what you can kill them with?
There's not. I mean, it's across the board other than centerfire. We don't allow any centerfire, rimfire firearms to be shot at turkeys in the state of New Mexico.
So shotguns, bows, crossbows,
Exactly.
all good. Yep.
And you're going to have some restrictions during the September fall turkey hunt. There's archery only during that September timeframe when the deer and elk hunters are out chasing deer and elk with archery equipment. You're going to be restricted to that archery equipment during that time as well.
And then, you know, waterfowl, migratory birds, things like that, you got to have a plug. You got to have that plug for turkey as well.
You do not. You can have that plug out and load it to capacity, which, you know, turkeys are tough. I've had to shoot some turkeys in the past 2 or 3 times to get those things on the ground. If you don't hit them, it's critical to hit them good the first time when you have the opportunity and it's calm and the birds hopefully still and offering you that opportunity. It's critical that you hit them good the first time, because I have lost birds that I did not hit first shot, and they end up taking flight and getting out of the country just because I didn't hit them well. So having 3 or 4 rounds in that shotgun it may not be a bad thing.
Awesome.
Cool.
Anything else?
You know, I'm ready to go.
Yeah, me too.
Me and Kyle
Well, good
are-
luck, guys. I wish you the best of luck, and I think you're on the right track. And it's something fun to do, and there's no turning back. Once you get that's one of those things. Once you do it and get the bug, you're hooked for life.
right. We're going to, we're actually going to be doing a 3 or 4 day, 4-day, right?
I don't know. 3
Yeah.
day. Depends on how we feel after the first 2 days.
Anyway, we're going to pack off into a wilderness. So we're going to get on our feet, do some hiking, do some camping, pack off into a wilderness for 3 or 4 days. Like Kyle said, depending on,
Another good thing about that, you're out hiking in the turkey woods in the springtime, there's a high probability of finding elk and deer sheds.
yep, absolutely.
Yep. So looking forward to it. Absolutely. Josh, I want to thank you for coming on. I appreciate sharing your knowledge with us. I think we like to do this podcast to get good, you know, sound information out there, introduce some new people to hunting. So sure appreciate you coming on and sharing with us your 30 years of experience. You said you're not an expert, but oftentimes that experience just kind of puts you where you need to be.
Yep, absolutely. Thanks for joining us, man.
Absolutely. I appreciate you guys. Appreciate the invite, and good luck to you guys on your turkey hunts.
Thank you
Thanks,
very
man.
much. Adios.
Adios, people.
You bet. Bye-bye.